Hello, everyone. My name is Kat Baker. I'm the Director of Student Success at Roan State. I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to take a look at this pretty brief presentation talking about serving students via the web, the tried and quote true practices for student service representatives. Um, we're all pretty busy right now trying to survive working remotely. And this is a great opportunity for all of us who work in student services to get together and share ideas. So I'm very excited to talk to all of you today. Just a little bit of background about success coaches at Roan State. We cover a wide variety of topics. So we essentially make up student services. We cover admissions, career counseling, counseling and disability referrals, learning center referrals, new student orientation, academic advising, and we do have mandatory advising with PIN numbers, graduation plans, degree maps. We help to facilitate those early transfer university connections. We assist with registration. We assist with early alert interventions in conjunction with faculty members. We also help students with their FAFSA filings and with their financial aid, which, as most of you can probably guess, can get a little crazy sometimes. So before and after COVID happened and we went to working remotely, things were a little bit different. So before, we had students on campus. They were walking around, they were visiting offices, they had open access to college resources. They had access to their advisors and their faculty members. They could easily stop by a faculty member's office. They could come into the Success Center and meet with their success coach. We had in-person student services. So if you needed to request a transcript, or if you wanted to come in and talk about a course substitution, or you wanted to get some answers on your financial aid documents that had to be turned in, you could walk in and get those student services in person. We also had social contact. Students were on campus with each other. They were talking to each other. They were talking to faculty. They were talking to staff. And then after COVID, students moved to online courses. Even if they were only signed up for those in-person courses, now they were suddenly have to transition to those online courses. They suddenly had limited or no access to college resources. It was so easy for the longest time to just go to the library or go to the learning center or to walk down to a computer lab. But now that we have started working remotely, some of those resources went away altogether and others became very limited. We also had limited or no access to advisors or faculty. Everything went online. You had to communicate via email. You had to communicate via phone. You couldn't just walk into your advisor's office anymore. You couldn't wait after class and catch your faculty member in the hall to talk to them about your biology test. You didn't have that anymore because we weren't on campus. And then, of course, we had limited or no social contact. Students were now at home, in their homes, with their family, typically separated from friends, from other support systems outside of their families. And so we really cut down on that social contact that students had. So what does online mean for me? And when I say me, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of a student. So I'm a student and I'm saying, okay, what does online mean for me with regard to student services? So for us at Roan State, because success coaches advise, we build advising into student services. So how does being online affect my advising, my grades, college resources, my financial aid, and then of course, what is going to happen with all this uncertainty and anxiety that I have as a student? Who's going to talk to me about that? And who's going to reassure me and help me to get past these fears that I have? So let's start with advising. What does online mean for me? Well, it now means that a student is going to have to meet with a faculty advisor or success coach via a Zoom appointment or a phone appointment. We've lost that ability to have those in-person meetings with students. We're going to have to rely more on emails and text, and that means that the student is going to have to be more self-reliant. They're going to have a higher level of personal follow-up because there's not going to be any of that in-person gentle reminders. Now it's got to be, okay, the reminder may be in my email, but am I checking my email? And the reminder may be in a text message, but am I checking my text message? We are asking students to take a more proactive role in their own advising. So what worked for us with advising? We found out very quickly that keeping our students updated was absolutely, positively number one. When we knew something about classes, we made sure that they were informed. If we knew that there was going to be a change in testing, in class delivery, in the way that things were delivered in D2L, we made sure that those students knew it as soon as we knew it. The other big thing that worked for us, and I cannot stress this one enough, is texting. We all work in higher ed, and we know that the struggle is very real when you're talking about students and their campus email accounts. They just don't check it. So we actually started utilizing Signalvine, which is a mass texting platform to improve communication. We have had so much success with Signalvine. Hands down, twice, maybe even 3 times the response that we had just using email. Signalvine has proved to be very, very beneficial for us. Now, when we first got it, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. It wasn't doing exactly what we wanted to do. But talking with them and really working to find solutions, we've now tweaked Signalvine to where every coach uses it, our advising resource center uses it, our one-stop uses it, and now even our business office is reaching out wanting to use Signalvine. The thing we have to always really check ourselves with texting though, is we don't want texting to become the new email. We don't want texting to become white noise. Oh look, it's another text from Round State. Great, I've got about 50 of those. So we have to be we have to have a very high level of intent when we're texting. Is it something that we really need for a student to see? We've also found great success using Zoom appointments. So we are able to share screens and still teach students about how to register or how to use the class schedule. And that was something that we really worried about going online, because a lot of what we do as success coaches is done in a teaching fashion. So we're showing a student how to register. We're showing them how to use the course scheduler. And so that was going to be really difficult if we lost that capability. Imagine you're having a phone conversation or an email conversation, and you're saying, okay, now go here and click here, and then scroll over here, click there, scroll down one more time, enter this code, and then click here. That's really hard to visualize for a student. So using Zoom and using the share screen option was very important for us because we were able to continue to teach students how to use RadarNet, how to use the tools that Round State had put out for them. We were also able to make a more personal connection because there was still some semblance of a face-to-face element to our meeting. Especially as success coaches, we really like that one-on-one, hey, I'm really glad to meet you. Tell me about your hopes and dreams. Let's talk about everything that you want to achieve at Round State. We really thrive on that relationship. And when it's taking place just over the phone or just through email and definitely through just text, you lose a little bit of that personal piece. So we really liked using Zoom because it allowed us to keep a little bit of that personal connection. So grades and incompletes. So what does online mean for me as a student when it comes to my grades and incompletes? Well, first off, your time management has to completely change. And that is something that we really had to talk to students about. Students who were going to in-person classes weren't on such a high level with their time management as the students who were already taking online classes. If you've taken online classes, you've been around the block, you know what it means to take an online class, and you know your time management has got to be spot on. Technology resources became important. How am I going to get a good grade if my internet at home is less than good? And also we had to understand that students were going to have to rely more on email and text communication with their instructors, and that was difficult for some students who needed that personal connection, that face-to-face connection with a teacher to talk about their grades. What kind of learner am I? Am I going to be able to thrive in an online environment, or do I need that in-person experience? We especially heard that from students who were in math and science classes. We saw a lot of students who were in anatomy and physiology or stats. They kept calling their success coach, I don't know if I can do this online. I'm really struggling. I need to be in class with my teacher. So we really had to look at what types of learners we had in our students. The students also had to be more self-reliant and have more personal follow-up. And that was something that for students who had never taken an online class, that was different for them. So what worked for us? We worked to identify students with technology needs. We knew that not everybody had a webcam, not everybody had a laptop. There were people who lived, especially in our area. Roane State serves 9 campuses, and some of those campuses are in very rural areas where the internet service is not so good. So we really had to think about Wi-Fi capabilities. We had to make sure that we were giving a full explanation of how an I works or an incomplete. Students were so confused about this. Incomplete, what does that mean? Does that mean I fail? Does that mean I pass? How is that going to affect my financial aid? We had to be ready to explain how an incomplete worked to every student. We had to talk about withdrawals or W's on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes the best decision academically to withdraw is disaster as far as financial aid goes. It can totally ruin a scholarship just by dropping a class. So we made sure that we were talking about W's on a case-by-case basis, student by student. And then we were emailing and texting reminders to students just to stay on top of stuff. And that really made a difference. We would have students that would email back and say, thank you so much for sending me that reminder. I was just about to miss that deadline. So we really found ways to utilize text and email to keep our students on top of things. So college resources, what does online mean for me? Do I have internet? For some students, they didn't. Do I have a computer at home? What about tutoring? I used to be able to go to the Learning Center and get tutoring. What about the library? What if I need to go and look at books or check out college resources? And then, of course, Zoom meetings, you mean on camera? I don't have a webcam, not to mention the fact that I don't feel that great about being on camera. So these were all things that we had to think about. How are these college resources going to how are they going to cross the line into this remote environment that we found ourselves in? So what worked for us? We set up a needs email inbox where students could ask for assistance. We loaned out laptops, webcams, Wi-Fi hotspots, etc. Just anything that a student needed. We tried everything we could to make sure that the student was connected with those resources. We made video links on how to access the virtual library and information on how to contact our library staff. We sent out the online tutoring schedule and sign-ups to every student so that they would know that just because we're not on campus, that does not mean you can't get tutoring services. The big one, of course, is financial aid. COVID happened, we started working remotely, and everybody started losing their minds about their financial aid. And I totally get that. Financial aid can be a black hole that you feel like you're just stuck swirling around in. So what did online mean for me? If I fail a class, will I lose my aid? We got that question so much because a student would feel that because I've gone remote and I'm now in an online class, what if I can't succeed? What if I fail? What's going to happen to my financial aid? We heard a lot of, this isn't my fault, but my financial aid should not be affected because of COVID. So we really had to think about that. What about my hope? What about my Pell? What about my promise? What about my reconnect? They wanted to know how going online and the potential negative grades that they may get, how's that going to affect their financial aid? And how does an I affect my financial aid? What does an incomplete mean? Does that mean the same as an F? If I get an F, I'm going to lose my hope. So we had to be ready to talk about that with every student. Communication, absolutely, hands down, number one, was the absolute thing that worked for us. We had to be ready to thoroughly explain the exceptions that were being made with regard to lottery, promise, and reconnect. We had to be ready to support students who were on SAP and help them through the appeal process. We had to be ready to explain how an I or an incomplete affects financial aid. And then we come to that big uncertainty and anxiety, and this was absolutely our biggest challenge. How are our students feeling? Well, they're anxious, they're overwhelmed, they've got feelings of depression, they're scared, there's uncertainty, they're worried, and a lot of times they were feeling alone. And we didn't want any of those things for our students. So what worked for us? We had enhanced counseling services for our students, staff, and faculty. We had what were called Meditation Mondays, which was an open Zoom meeting that anybody could come into. They could even join anonymously. And people were just talking about their experiences working remotely and taking classes remotely. It was fantastic. So how are you feeling button in the student portal? It's fun now when you log into RadarNet, there's these little smiley faces. There's a smiley face, there's a face that just looks and then there's a sad face. And the student can click on one of those three faces and it just says, how are you feeling today? And then that email goes to our Dean of Students, who then says, great, you're feeling good today? That's fantastic. You're feeling just kind of, okay, we all have bad days sometimes. Hopefully it gets better, but let us know if it doesn't. And if we get a sad face from a student, it asks the student additional questions. Have you been thinking about suicide? Do you have food insecurity? Are you living in your car? Are you having any kind of housing insecurities? Are you just having a bad day? Are you are you stressing out because of your schedule or your classes? And then the Dean of Students would then follow up with those students who reported that they were feeling sad or they were feeling down. And we've seen such a high response to that. And we've been able to connect with some students who otherwise we don't know if anyone would have connected with them. And then we've stayed in constant communication. We've had a lot of success via text. I was talking about Signalvine earlier. We've had great results with text. And then most of all, be kind, be understanding, and put yourself in the student's shoes. These are unprecedented times, not just for us, but for our students. I want to thank you for just taking the time to watch this, what seems like a quick presentation, but I really look forward to chatting with you in a couple of weeks so we can share best practices and strategies during this time of working remotely and our plans and going back on campus. I think that we can all learn from each other, so I really look forward to connecting with all of you. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments for me, my contact information is on the screen. I hope to hear from all of you soon. Thanks.